Ganji, mates, and welcome back to Nubutu Gaming. Really nice to have you back on the channel. What we're going to be talking about today is E3 in this episode number 2 of Straight Talk. We're going to be going through the conferences one by one, and today is the EA conference, right? So let's jump right into it and we can start talking about the interesting stuff that's out there. And before we delve into the actual conference and what EA brought to the conference, I just thought it might be worth mentioning that before they actually started their conference, they were doing a live stream test, and one of the technicians ran the Titanfall 2 campaign trailer by mistake while they were doing the test and showed it to everyone on the internet. As you can believe, that is quite a large fail on the side of the technician, and it kind of took the winds out of the sails of EA a little bit, because that's kind of that was their first reveal. You know, no one was supposed to know about it at all. There was only just supposed to be rumors, so it was a little bit of a fuck up. And your man Vince Zampella, who is the CEO of Respawn Entertainment, who are developing the game, took it quite well. Yeah, if you watch the show, you'll be able to see what happened. Anyway, so let's jump into it. In the introduction, Andrew Wilson, who is the CEO of EA, gave a brief introduction and started talking about the way that EA is trying to approach gaming and games and the community and all that kind of stuff. Mostly just a whole bunch of fluff. But one of the more important things that he said was that he was relying on the community of reviewers and YouTubers and content creators that were there at the show to tell us what those games were like, and to tell us what the experience was like, and to relay to us how awesome those games are and what they're going to be. So it's kind of strange that they're leaving all the marketing in the hands of people that they don't actually know, and good on EA, because how do you know that you can trust the reviewer if like in the past they've given you bad reviews or anything like that? How do you know that you can trust the reviewer? Well, you can't really. I mean, they're obviously going to give an honest opinion. They don't want to be biased to your company, because then their opinion is worth shit, right? Anyway, so from EA's point of view, I think, or from the side of EA, I think that's a very good move. All they need to do is just make sure that they keep those people happy at the show. Moving on from that, we've got Titanfall 2. The first trailer that they showed was the multiplayer trailer, which as it opened, it looked very much like Call of Duty, except for the massive mechs, of course, because Call of Duty doesn't have big, massive mechs, except if you consider, I suppose, the Sentry Gun or something like that a massive mech, which it is nowhere near what Titanfall has. The similarity kind of stopped with the boots on the ground kind of stuff, or the wall running. And you could see that the character and the player actually had a lot more ability, and one of those abilities particularly was the grappling hook. Yeah, you can see that it's used quite extensively in the trailer. The strange thing about the grappling hook is that a lot of games this year are actually using the grappling hook as a mechanic. So this isn't the first time that I've seen the grappling hook in a game. My immediate response to what I saw on this video was Uncharted 4, and then immediately as well Overwatch. The Widowmaker, or whatever her name is in Overwatch, she uses that kind of bungee grappling hook. Yeah, so that seems to be quite a prominent mechanic in a lot of games these days, but in Titanfall 2 it's employed quite nicely, and you can see a lot of its use throughout the entire multiplayer trailer, particularly at the end where they've got the guy pulling another player across the screen and finishing him off, which is, you can imagine, like if you're jumping up in the air and you're doing something like that, it's quite acrobatic and it's quite fun to achieve once you've got it right. Moving on from that, there's the new campaign feature, which they actually missed in Titanfall, the original Titanfall, right? Titanfall 1 didn't have a campaign, it was a multiplayer thing, and you had to just kind of rush learn how to use Titanfall and how to actually work around all the mechanics that were in your mech, and how you could like develop your skills based on that, and you didn't actually really have time to sit down and focus on the things that were happening around you. So there was no way that you can actually soak up all of the energy and everything that the development team had put into the landscape and had put into the mechs. Most of the time you were just pounding and fighting, and I think that's one of the reasons why I took a little bit of a nosedive. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, there were still a lot of people playing that game and they loved it to bits, right? But it was a huge mistake on their part. Anyway, Titanfall 2, luckily, has a campaign and it looks really, really good. Okay, it's kind of a play on a war buddy movie or something like that, where you've got two entities that find each other within the game and they become connected, and that way they create this bond between the two of them. The strange thing is that the one is a mech that is almost sentient, and the other one is a soldier, right? So the mech soldier is like died, and it's looking for another soldier. This soldier's mech is obviously being destroyed or something like that, and the two of them come together and create this union, and that is kind of the basis for how this game is going to move forward, which, by the looks of things, is actually really, really interesting, and it's a nice story mechanic that you can bring into a game like that, and it's quite exciting to see that, you know, they've got that multiplayer thing down, and they've got great mechanics in there. Now they've got a story, and it looks like they've really worked hard on the story, which is great, right? Following on from that, we had a presentation of Madden 2017, and to be honest, I'm not a real big fan of sports games, and by sports games I mean console games or PC games that relay sports. I'm more than a big fan of sports, and I love playing sport myself, but the games, not so much. The only part of the entire presentation that I was really excited by, or entertained me in any way, was number one, there was an appearance of Gronkowski, who is in the New England Patriots, and I support them all the way. There was a discussion at the end about an esports league, and it was quite interesting because you've got all these people that play these types of games, like let's say Madden, for instance, or FIFA, or Call of Duty, or anything like that, and it becomes an esports, and they become really, really good. And what they did was they had two of the top players for Madden there, right? And they had a whole bunch of other players to be introduced on the stage as well. And the most entertaining thing about that whole esports presentation, or the esports league presentation, was the fact that the top player had a broken collarbone, or something like that. He'd done something to his arm, and like now he's like injured. He might be out for the season. Can he keep up with it? It was crazy. It started sounding like football all over again. It was really, really funny. Oh, this was amazing, right? So after the whole Madden thing and all of the excitement about the Madden 2017 had died down, they introduced Andromeda. Okay, Mass Effect Andromeda. So the last Mass Effect that I played was Mass Effect 3, and it was an amazing game. With all the complaints about the ending and all this kind of stuff that was happening at the time, it was a really, really amazing, immersive game. Had great mechanics, had great gameplay. It was really, really nice. The only thing that worried me was the very rigid storyline, and it looks like in Mass Effect Andromeda that isn't going to be the case. So this is going to be more of an open world exploratory kind of Mass Effect, and they're opening it up to a whole new universe and a whole new set of planets and a whole new star system, and all the environments are going to be different. It just looks absolutely amazing. Probably one of the best space themed kind of games that I've seen so far, or to date, right? So in fact, it looks a little bit like Destiny on Mars. Yeah. So if you consider Mars, and even Venus as well has got great ties to what Andromeda actually looks like. But I'd say because it's being built on the Frostbite engine, and we all know what Frostbite engine is capable of, it's gonna look amazing. So I cannot wait, and I think that was something that everybody in the audience was waiting for as well. Not only Titanfall 2 and the expectation of that, but also Mass Effect Andromeda. And if you're waiting for it, or just tell me what you guys think. Like, I'm super excited for that game, right? Moving on from that was FIFA 2017, and like I said, I'm not a big fan of sports games, but this looked actually quite interesting, considering the fact that they're now including something in the game called Journey, which is a segment of the game that's dedicated to a story piece, right? So the story piece is based on this young player that grows up and becomes part of the league, and I think plays for Manchester or something like that. I don't know what the jersey colors are. I'm not really a big soccer fan, but the story for me, even from the the trailer, the story for me looked very much like it should be a movie more than be adopted for a game or adapted to a game. But I guess time will tell. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of sports games, so I'm probably not going to get it. But if somebody else that I trust says that the storyline is very good, I'll totally get it and try it out. You know. In fact, I've got a friend that loves FIFA, and so I'll take advice from him. Anyway, so moving on from there, I haven't thought about that. Like the fact that FIFA's bringing in a story, the fact that Titanfall has got a story now, the fact that we got things like Mass Effect Andromeda coming out, and things like Uncharted. You can see there's all very powerful stories that are starting to come out, and it's been such a weird time for me because all the way up until like 2015, 2016, it's been a very difficult time for video games because they've been battling to tell really good stories. A lot of the time, ever since the PlayStation 4 came out and the Xbox One came out, it's been focused on graphics, right? So the story ends up being very lean and weak and unfocused, and it's just full of characters that you can't get into, and you can't even focus on playing the game because you have no connection to the game. So basically, it just becomes a chore to finish this game, to like end it. It's like work almost. And it's really, really nice to see that you've got all of these development companies coming together and working really, really hard on developing a really good story, because now they've got the hardware. They know what they can do now, so they can really, really play in the realm of those games, and they can really, really push the history, the storylines, and the depth of everything that they're doing, which is amazing, and I'm really, really super excited about that. Moving on from there and sticking to kind of the story thing, and this fitted in quite well considering the fact that it's an independent thing. Okay, so it's about indie games. EA announced that they're going to be starting a whole new segment of games in their market, or a whole new market of games, right? Their market of games is going to be called Origins, and this is going to be focused on independent developers who show a lot of promise. And their basis for this was because of Unravel and the way that Unravel presented itself to the public and how popular it was with people, because it was just such a good game. Coming from an independent company, it might have been short, but it was well developed, it was well put together, the mechanics were good, the storyline was good, the experience was just amazing. I mean, that was one of the games that I really, really loved, and I'm passionate about the fact that these independent developers now have an opportunity with big publishers like EA to put forward a game that previously they might have really, really struggled to get out there, you know, and we might have missed it completely because they didn't have the opportunity to bring it out. I'm really glad that EA is working on this. So in order to present the Origins idea for EA, they presented another game called Fe. Alright, so Fe was a game developed by a company called Zoink, who are resided in Sweden. That's actually where my uncle stays, and he stays probably about 20 minutes away from their offices in Gothenburg, which is really, really cool. Like, if you think about it, it's like right next door to this person that you know. But anyway, so Zoink Games have developed this game called Fe, and basically what it is this independent kind of adaptation of good and evil fights. You know, a storyline that's developed on good and evil, and it's this fight between one set of characters and another set of characters. But the really interesting concept about it is that there's no verbal. Well, it's really hard to explain. It's not really verbal in the way that we understand verbal. So it's all about sounds. There's no actual sentences. There's no vocabulary in the game or anything like that. It's all about communicating with sound and using sound as a weapon or a tool in order to gain access and to develop more in this world, right? That kind of concept is a really, really interesting concept, and I doubt that any of the bigger companies could come up with something like that with all these people sitting around a table, because you need somebody, a really small group of people who are really passionate about an idea and are really kind of reach out into the depths of creativity and pull something like that together, and they create this type of game. You could see as well that the CEO Klaus Lingerle, he was really, really passionate about, and like almost in tears, full of joy about presenting this idea to the people, and you could really see the passion on his face. He was so excited to bring this to the public. He was just like, oh man, I love this game, and we've been working on it for so long. And it was him and 19 other people that have been working on this game for ages. And then he got this break with EA, and they were able to bring it to they were able to bring it to the conference and show it to us and let us see and anticipate what they were going to bring. So basically, like I said, the whole concept behind it is using sound as a weapon or a tool in the game in order to move around, and the art style as well is really, really nice. There's a friend of mine, Rick Tariq, who does these Troblock 3D printed characters. If you guys want to check out a link, you can check it out in the description below. But he makes these really, really cool characters with the sharp tessellated edges, and the furs are all sharp and everything. Very, very nice, cute looking stuff, and a very different type of art style. Very sketchy, yeah. So if you remember that game, there was a game that came to PlayStation 4 not so long ago. I think it was called Dreamscape or something like that, where you could actually paint things and create these environments painted out. It has a similar sort of feel, right? The other very interesting thing about this game as well is that they're not going to direct the player at all. So they're not going to give the player any direction as to where to go, what to complete next, or what it is that you actually need to do in this world. So they're going to leave everything as part of the discovery mechanism, and they're going to leave it all up to the player. They're going to leave it all up to you. They're going to leave you in this massive, beautiful world just to experience everything and to learn how to do all of this stuff. So that, I think, it's a very risky thing to do, but I also think as far as independent developers are concerned, if EA is happy about backing them, I can see that they're probably going to go quite far. And I'm very excited to see what this game looks like. Moving on from that, we had a very, very awkward presentation from, what's her name? Jade Raymond, about the entire Star Wars series. And Star Wars is great as a movie. The game franchise kind of puts me off a little bit, particularly because Battlefront was a letdown, not as a game, not as a multiplayer game. It was beautiful as a multiplayer game. It looked visually, it was stunning. The gameplay was amazing. You know, the large maps, the vehicles, all that kind of stuff. It's very close to Battlefield, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. The problem was the pricing. The way that they had structured the pricing, the way that they released it to market was very, very, I don't know, it just seemed underhanded and cold and like money grabbing. For lack of a better term, money grabbing. The game is amazing, but the way that they priced it and structured it, and the value that you got out of spending $120 or $130 just wasn't there. Okay, so I'm very trepidatious about anything that has to do with Star Wars and EA. So I kind of turned off at this point. But she did say that Visceral Games and her studio Motive are actually working on a game together, which is going to involve a whole brand new kind of storyline. It has nothing to do with the current Star Wars. It's going to have a whole bunch of new characters, you know, a whole new storyline. It's going to have a whole new direction. So that'll be very interesting to see. But that's also only going to be coming much, much later, like 2018 or something like that. So until maybe next year E3, when we see more development on that game, I'm not going to keep my hopes up about the whole Star Wars thing. Okay, now moving on from there, we go into the final piece of this press conference, and I've got to tell you, I was skeptical before because I bought Battlefield 4 when it came out, and it was the biggest pile of crap that you could ever play, right? This was before they had any of the updates. This was before they did anything to fix the netcode or anything like that. In fact, on this channel, you can go down and you can have a look at the laggy gameplay that I uploaded, because the netcode was so bad on this game that I couldn't even move. There was all this rubber banding. It was unbelievable. And I mean, the internet connection that I had wasn't bad at all. In fact, I wasn't even in South Africa. I was outside of South Africa, and I had a much better connection at that stage. So it was just unbelievable how bad the game was. Not only that, the campaign would crash constantly. Like, I literally, every time I finished a stage or every time I finished a mission, it would crash, and then I'd have to start it up again. And sometimes it wouldn't even register the finish of the mission, and I'd have to go right back to the beginning and start the mission all over again. It was tedious, it was hard to finish, and the multiplayer was just buggy beyond comprehension. And then you still had to wait 2 years for it to be upgraded and updated. It's unbelievable. right? So I had really, I was really concerned about what they were going to bring with Battlefield 1. I'd seen some of the screenshots, I'd seen some of the gameplay trailers and stuff like that, and it looked really interesting. But when I saw it here, it was completely unbelievable, and it blew my mind away. Like, I can't believe this game. This looks amazing. Number one, because they've now changed the theme from doing Modern War all the way back to World War One, which is amazing. So you've got limitations in hardware, you've got limitations in vehicles, you've got limitations in how well these weapons can aim, the kick of them, all that kind of stuff. And you actually see, you get to experience all of those things in the gameplay that they're now afterwards. So they played an hour of multiplayer after they finished the presentation of the Battlefield thing. So they presented it in a way where they listed off the major new features in this game. So remember, the first feature was destruction, which has now become a hallmark of Battlefield. But needless to say that destruction has been in a lot of other games. So just maintain the fact that destruction was always there. This isn't a new feature, but they've really pushed the envelope with Battlefield 1, right? They've taken this concept and they've run with it. They've really just made everything destructible, all the way down to the actual battlefield itself. So if you shoot a shell into the ground, it creates a divot in the ground, which is just unbelievable, because you can change the entire game just by doing something like that. You can grab a tank, blow out a hole, so you can give your guys a foxhole to like find cover in while they're busy moving closer to the enemy. So that's really entertaining, really interesting to see something like that happening. And the other thing was the weather system. So there's this now constantly changing weather system, which it'll adapt the way that you have to play the game. And I'm anticipating that all of this stuff is only happening in multiplayer because, well, I'll talk about that in a little bit. Anyway, so they've got this constantly changing weather system, right? Which would be similar to Witcher 3, similar to Fallout 4, similar to Assassin's Creed Black Flag, similar to Forza as well, even had a weather system in it. So the weather system itself, like I said with the destruction, isn't actually a really new feature, but it's a new feature to Battlefield. The interesting thing is that it very definitely affects the way that you play. So an example that I could possibly give you is if you're used to long range sniping, yeah, so you normally shooting characters on the other side of the field. If a fog rolls in, you need to now change your playstyle in order to get any kind of if you want to get some kind of interaction with the opposing team. You now need to switch up your loadout to a short to mid-range loadout, and you need to get out there and start trying to find people to fight, right? So that's kind of the impact that it would have on the battlefield and the gameplay. Also, well, following on from the weather system, and as always, Battlefield always offers a wide variety of equipment and weapons and vehicles, and there's no difference in this particular one. The very special thing in their vehicle system now is the fact that they've brought in these behemoths, which are these massive airships or zeppelins that you can bring in, and it's actually in the gameplay that they had on the show. But these zeppelins come in, they're massive, and you can literally control one side of the battle with these zeppelins, so long as you can keep it floating for long enough in order to get the kills that you need to get while you're up there, right? The other thing is, once you shoot, if you're on the opposing team and you see the zeppelin coming, you can shoot that thing down, and it'll come down and it'll hit the ground, and literally the wreck will stay where it is. It doesn't matter where it lands or where it falls. It's not pre-scripted. It's not a quick time event or anything like that. It's an actual physical thing that happens in the game. It comes down, it crashes in the ground, and it leaves the shell there, right? That means that adapts the entire battlefield again. So now you've got something else that you need to run around, and you need to move in and around, and you could possibly duck behind and get a little bit of cover, maybe behind one of the pieces of steel framing that was in the Zeppelin. It's just unbelievable, like the things that you can consider could happen in this game, which means that it would essentially make almost every single multiplayer game different. So the only thing that would be the same is the expectation of these features. But of course, you're going to be expecting the structure, you're going to be expecting the weather, but once you understand how that thing works, it's an endless piece of fun. It really is an endless piece of fun, right? One of the big things that I noticed in this particular presentation was, number one, they didn't really focus on the single player campaign. In fact, they didn't say anything about it. They didn't even show the trailer. So I'm concerned that they have a few issues about the single player campaign, and I'm just hoping that it's not a bad campaign. So I have my reservations about buying a game that's multiplayer only. And in saying that, I'm going to bring up Star Wars Battlefront again. The UI in this Battlefield 1 looks exactly the same as the UI that they used in Battlefront, which is great because it's easily readable, the menus are easily navigatable, and it just kind of gets out the way and it lets you play the game, right? And that's what made Battlefront nice as well, is because the UI was so clean and crisp and easy to move around. So Battlefield has now taken that on, and so the entire presentation was essentially just beautiful. The whole thing was just so nice to see. The other thing that was really, really exciting, 64-person multiplayer, seeing 32 people on either side running around. It was like watching ants run around and shoot each other. It was just completely unbelievable. So I'm really, really excited to try and experience something like that, particularly on that kind of scale. Right, that was kind of like where the conference ended off. Okay, then they moved into the gameplay thing with Battlefield 1, where they had an hour of gameplay between celebrities and some YouTubers and online gamers and stuff like that. And that was really, really nice to watch. If you have a moment, you should probably go and do a bit of a search on YouTube and go and check it out. It was really, really funny. Particularly because Snoop Dogg was he was smoking blunts the whole time and passing that shit around. Like, everyone was a little bit stoned. And because it's California and Los Angeles, like, no one cares, So very, very funny, very entertaining, and the matters were really, really, really nice as well. There was a lot of competition happening. It was really powerful. It was a good balance, Overall, I think EA did a great job of presenting their content and presenting the games that they wanted to present. The only thing that I felt was, particularly from Jade Raymond and from Andrew, it felt like there was a little bit of farce, or maybe some pushed emotion there. So I think that's probably just down to how comfortable they were presenting and how much confidence they had in the actual presentation, particularly after having that leak. I mean, that must have just taken the wind out of their sails completely, just made them stutter a little bit, because it was literally moments before the whole thing took off. Now, besides that, I think the whole experience was pretty good. I really enjoyed Andromeda. I really enjoyed Fee. Titanfall is going to be great to see and to play. And Battlefield 1 for definite. Those were highlights of the show for me. Anyway, so that's all I have for this particular roundup of EA's conference. If you have any comments that you want to let me know what you're thinking, or what games you're looking forward to from EA, just leave it in the comment section down below. Like I said, I'll put that link to Rick's Troblock characters that he prints in the comments in the description down below as well. Feel free to go and visit him. I think he's on Facebook or something like that. Really, really cool characters. And again, thanks for watching, Mensa. It was really exciting to bring you this content from E3. I'm really passionate about games. I'm really passionate about what these companies are bringing to you and bringing it to us. And I'm just so excited to see what's happening. There's so many games coming out that it just it blows your mind. Anyway, thanks again, Mensa, for watching. Remember to comment, rate, and subscribe. And I shall see you in episode 3 when we come back for some Bethesda stuff. Thanks again. Bye.